Alright, so to get to the quiz for today, you go into Blackboard, you go into this class, Office App Spreadsheet Database, go to SimNet, McGraw-Hill Campus, SimNet SimGrader, and since you'll be doing the quiz for Chapter 1, you would click on the group for Excel Chapter 1, and there should be something that says Exam Excel Quiz Chapter 1. You would click on that, and once you're ready, you would click Take Exam. But before you take the exam, you want to see how many questions there are, how many attempts you have, what's the time limit, and if you had already started, it would say started or paused or something like that there. Also, you want to look at the previous attempts. This will tell you how many attempts you've already tried. And it would give the attempt number, the time that you took it, the date, and the score. Now, I want you to remember the first class when we discussed the quiz and how I grade it. I only count the first 10 points of the quiz. So if the quiz was worth 15 points and you received a 10 out of 15, that would mean that you would receive 100%. If you received a 9 out of 15, that would be a 90%. If you received an 8 out of 15, that would be an 80%, and so on. All right, this week we're going to work on Excel Chapter 2. To get to the assignments and to the SimNet and SimBook, you go to Blackboard, you click on this class, click on SimNet, click on McGraw-Hill Campus, click on SimNet SimGrader, and then you will go to the Excel Chapter 2 group. Now notice you see 3 items listed. You have your Independent Project 2-4, which is due on June 12th, 2020 at 11:59 p.m. You have your SimBook for Chapter 2, and then you have your Guided Project 2-3, which is also due at the end of the semester. Now remember, the guided projects are graded by SimNet, but those don't count towards your grade. The independent projects are graded by SimNet, and those count towards your grade. So we're going to work on Guided Project 2-3. Remember, in SimNet you have 3 steps. Step 1 is to download the files. Step 2 is to save the file. Step 3 is to submit the file for grading. In this first step, downloads files, you have different downloads that you have. You only want to download the required files. So the start file is required. The instructions file is required. I'm going to download the instructions file now. And I'm going to download the start file. Now my files are usually downloaded to this PC and in the downloads folder. Alright, so in the downloads folder you see my 2 files for Chapter 2. I'm going to open up the instructions, and I'm going to open up the start file. And I generally like to have these, if I don't have the instructions printed out, I generally like to have them side by side, so as I'm doing the work I can mark off the work that's been done so that I don't repeat the steps. And to mark off things in Adobe, you would want to click on the highlighter, which is located here in the options, the little 3 dots, and you would click on highlight. Alright, so step 1 says open the Excel start file. If the workbook opens in protected view, click the enable editing button so you can modify it. So I know that it's opening in protective view because when you go into the start file, you'll see this protected view message, and you want to click enable editing. So after you enable editing, you want to highlight that. Alright, step 2 says set range names for the workbook. So it says on the student loan sheet, select cells B5 to C8. So if I go into my sales spreadsheet, I see that I have two worksheets for this workbook. I have student loan worksheet and I have a fees and credit worksheet. It says select the student loan worksheet, and then it wants me to go to cells B5. So I'm going to go to column B, row 5, and I'm going to select B5 down to C8. Click the Create the Selection button, which is located in the Formulas tab. So I'm going to go to my Formulas tab. I'm going to go to my Defined Names group. Click the drop down arrow, and then I'm going to select Create from Selection. Now as you hover over these ribbons, you'll see that the ribbons give you some information. It says for Create from Selection, it says automatically generate names from the selected cells. This tells you what that ribbon does. It's really helpful when you're not unsure of what something does. Alright, so I click the Create from Selection. I'm going to go ahead and highlight 2B. 2C says verify that the left column box in the Create Names from Selection dialog box is selected. So I'm going to look. I see that my left column is selected. So I'm going to highlight that. It says deselect the top row box if it's checked, and click OK. So the only thing that I have selected is the left column. It tells me to deselect this, but it's not even selected, so I don't need to worry about doing anything with the top row. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Alright, 2E says select cells E5 to E7. Repeat steps A through D to create the range names. So I'm going to select, so I'm going to go to E5, highlight that, go down to F7, then I'm going to click, I'm going to go to my Formulas tab, Define Names group, and I'm going to create from selection. I'm going to make sure that top row is not selected, and I'm going to make sure that the left column is selected, and then I'm going to click OK. After that is complete, I'm going to highlight everything in 2E. 2F says click the Name Manager button, which is located in the Formulas tab, and then Define Names group. And I'm going to click on the Name Manager. Again, when you hover over these ribbons, it'll tell you exactly what each thing does, give you an example. So once I click on that, so as you can see, it gives us a figure to look at, and I'm going to make this a little larger so I can see. so I can compare what I have with what's in the name manager and the instructions. So I see the loan amount, I see the loan terms, I see payment, and it's telling me where it's referring to. I need to make this a little bit bigger. So I'm going to compare and make sure that what's here is showing up in my assignment. Rate looks good. Total cost looks good. Total interest looks good. Total principal looks good. Alright, so next that takes care of 2F, but I need to get this zoom size back down so I can see a little bit more. And it says for 2G, it says click to close. So I'm going to click close, so that takes care of that. Alright, 3 says enter a payment function. 3A says select cell C8. So I'm going to go to column C, row 8. 3B says click the financial button, which is located in the formulas tab. Function library group. Scroll down. So if you hover over the PMT, that tells you what it does. I'm going to click the PMT. That takes care of 3B. 3C says click the rate box and click cell C7. So I'm in the rate box. It just I'm going to type C7 in the rate. So as you type things in, or if I was to click on cell C7, you would get the same thing. But as you can see, the rate is 0.04. That's what's showing up. And as you type things in to these fields, you should see a number or something being generated here. Alright, 3C is completed. Now it says 3D says type /12 immediately after rate to divide by 12 or for the monthly payments. So we're going to do 12. So as you see, as I'm typing things in, you see the numbers change on the right hand side. Click the MPER box and click cell C6. The substituted range name is loan term. So if I click MPR, and when I click on MPER, you'll see down here it gives a brief description of what that is. Click MPR, and then I'm going to click cell C6. So I'm going to go to column C, row 6, and as I select C6, you see it says loan underscore term. So that takes care of 3E. 3F says type *12 after loan term to multiply by 12. So after the loan underscore term, you put an *12. So as you can see, the value is changing. It changed from 5 to 60. So that takes care of 3F. 3G says click the PV box and type a minus sign. So if I click on PV, you see down here it says what PV is. It's the present value. And it says type a minus sign. So I'm going to type minus to set the argument as a negative, and then after that I'm going to click on cell C5 So I'm going to go to C, column C, row 5. Nope, not that one. All right, C5 is here. All right, the loan amount, that's correct. For the present value argument, a negative loan amount reflects the lender's perspective since the money is paid out now. So as you can see, the value is negative 10,000 here. All right, 3I says leave the FV or future value and type boxes empty. So FV should stay empty, but if I click on it, you'll see down here it says FV is the future value, and type, you see what it says for type. All right, so it says leave those two empty. Then it says click OK. The payment for a loan at the rate is $186.43, which is a positive value. So before you even click OK, if you look down here, it says formula results equals a dollar amount. And right here in this little corner, it says $186.43. So you click OK. You have your payment amount correct as it shows in 3J. So I'm going to highlight 3J. Now this is a good time to save the document. So I'm going to do a Control S to save. All right, document has been saved. I can also click the floppy drive up here for save. And when you hover over that, you see it says Control plus S. That's the shortcut key to save. Or you can go to the back page and click save. All right, 4, create a total interest formula. So it says click cell F5, which it should say total interest. This value is calculated by multiplying the monthly payment by the total number of payments to determine total outlay. From this amount, you subtract the loan amount. So I'm going to click on F5. So when I click on F5, if you look up in the name box, which is right here, that's where it says total interest. All right, so 4A is complete. So I'm in F5, which is the total interest field, and it says equal. Equal in Excel means I'm about to create a formula. So anytime you want to create a formula, you have to start it with the equal sign. So it says equal, and you see it says payment. So now I need to click on cell C8, which is the payment. That takes care of 4B. And then it says 4C says type the asterisk to multiply and click cell C6. So I'm going to put my asterisks, and then I'm going to click on cell C6, which is the long term. And as you see, as I go through, you see the word long term is there. So that takes care of 4C. 4D says type asterisk 12 to multiply by 12 for monthly payments. So I'm gonna 12. And then it says type minus immediately after asterisk 12 to subtract. And then it says click cell C5. The formula is payment times loan term, which you can see, times 12 minus loan amount. So I need to select C5, loan amount. Parentheses are not required because the multiplications are done from left to right followed by the subtraction. So if you see figure 2-92, which is to the right of 4F, you get a visual of how it should look, and you can compare and contrast what's in the instructions with what's in your file. All right, so 4A is complete, 4F is complete. So then it says press enter. The result is $1,185.81. So as you can see, right now I have $1,185.81. And when you click on cell F5, you look in the formula bar and you'll see the formula that's being used. It's very important that you do not type these words in and you actually click on the cells, because SimNet will grade it wrong if you type it in, and the formula may not work properly because sometimes people fat finger things and think that they type things correctly. So it's always good to click on the cell as opposed to typing it in. All right, so now is a good time to save my Excel. So I'm going to do a Control S to save, and then I'm going to move on to 5. All right, 5 says create the total principal formula and the total loan cost. 5A says select cell F6. So I'm going to go to F6, which is total principal. This value is calculated by multiplying the monthly payment by the total number of payments. From this amount, subtract the total interest. So 5A is complete. 5B, type the equal sign. So we're about to create a formula. So it says type equals. I'm still in cell F6. So I'm going to type equal. And then 5C says, 5B says I have to click on cell C8. So I need to click cell C8. Again, make sure you select cell C8 and not type it in. All right, type the asterisk. Times cell C6. That takes care of 5C. 5D says type asterisk 12 to multiply by 12 for monthly payments. And then I'm going to type asterisk 12. And then I'm going to type the minus sign immediately after the 12 to subtract. And then 5F says click cell F5, the total interest. So next I'm going to click total interest, which is cell F5. And it says the formula is payment times loan underscore term times 12 minus total interest. That looks correct. 5G says press enter. Total principal is the amount of the loan. So I'm going to press enter. So that is the total principal. All right. 5H says click cell F7. I'm going to click cell F7, column F, row 7. The total cost of the loan. This is the total principal plus the total interest. So that takes care of 5H. 5I says type equals. Again, I'm going to be entering a formula. So I press enter, and then it says click cell F5. So column F, row 5, and then type plus, and then it says click F6, column F, row 6, and then it says press enter. All right, so that tells me the total cost of the loan. Now, this is a good tool to have when, if you have a loan and you have the principal amount, you know the principal amount, you know how many months there are, you know the rate. You can actually use Excel to come up with your own amortization chart, so you know how much your payments are going to be per month and how much is actually going to interest and how much is going to principal, and you can also know what the total cost is going to be. So this is a very useful tool. All right, we're at a good point where we should save, so I'm going to do a Control S, and I'm going to move on to number 6, which is build an amortization schedule. So it says 6A says click cell B13, so I'm going to go to column B down to row 13. So I know I'm there because it says it in the name box as well. All right, the beginning balance is the loan amount. All right, 6B says type type the equal sign, so that lets me know that I'm about to enter a formula. So I'm going to type equals. I'm going to click on cell C5, and then I'm going to press enter. All right. 6C says format the value as accounting format. To do that, we go to our home tab, our numbers group. I need to make this a little bigger so I can see it. Home tab, numbers group. We'll click on accounting. All right. Next, 6D says select cell C13. So I'm going to go to column C, row 13. The interest for each payment is calculated by multiplying the balance in column B by the rate divided by 12. All right, that takes care of 6D. So we'll move on to 6E, which says type equal and click cell B13. So equal, and I'm going to select B13. 6F says type asterisk, parentheses, click cell C7. Type /12 and in the parentheses. So you see that figure 2-93 will give you an example of, or shows you what exactly should be in cell C13, which it looks the same. All right, so 6H says press enter. So I'm going to press enter. And then I'm going to change the format to accounting. All right, that takes care of 6H. 6I says select cell D13. The portion of the payment that is applied to the principal is calculated by subtracting the interest portion from the payment. So let's select cell D13. Equals C8 minus C13 and I'm going to press enter. So out of that $186.43 payment, $148.93 is going towards the principal. $37.50 is going to the interest. All right, it says click cell E13. The total payment is the interest portion plus the principal portion. So these two should equal this. So $37.50 plus $148.93 should equal $186.43. So I'm on cell E13. 6.8 says click interest or type equal. It says click cell C13. Type plus, click cell D13 and press enter. Before I press enter, I want you to make a note of the colors for C13 versus the color for D13. As you can see, C13 is blue, and if you look over on C13, it's shaded and has a border around it that's blue. Same with D13, it's red. The font color is red, and if you go to D13, you see it's shaded with red and it has a border of red. So this kind of gives you an idea, a visual of where these values are located in the spreadsheet. That's a useful tool to have. All right, so next I'm going to press enter, and it should match E13 right now, should match C13, which it does, or C8, sorry. So we're good there. So 6.9 says select cell F13. The ending balance is the beginning balance minus the principal payment. So I'm going to click on F13, and then I'm going to type equal. Then I'm going to click on B13, and I'm going to type a minus, and then I'm going to click on D13, and after that I'll press enter. Before I press enter again, look at B13. You see B13 has a blue border and it's shaded with blue. D13, red border, shaded with red. So I'm going to hit enter. That should be my ending balance. And it says ending balance should be $9,851.07, which that looks good. Now's a good time to save, so I'm going to do a Control S. Control S. And we'll move on to step 7. 7 says fill data and copy formulas. 7A says select cells A13. So select A13 to A14. This is a series with an increment of 1. So now I'm going to drag the fill pointer down to A72. This will give me all 60 payments that I need for the 5-year loan term. So I'm going to hover over the fill pointer, which is this solid green square, and I'm going to drag it all the way down to A72. So now it should fill in all of the values starting with 1 going all the way down to 60. So this is a 60-month payment. All right, so that takes care of 7A and takes care of 7B. 7C says select cells B14. I'm selecting B14. The beginning balance for the second payment is the ending balance for the first payment. So now I'm going to type E equals, and I'm going to select cell F13, and then I'm going to press enter. So as you can see, the ending balance is now the beginning balance for the second payment. (7E) says double click the fill pointer for cell B14 to fill the formula down to row 72. The results are 0 until the rest of the schedule is complete. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on, this is another way to do a fill. All right, fill pointers right here, this solid green box right here. So I'm just going to double click, and as you can see, it fills in nothing all the way down to B72 or payment number 60. All right, 7F says select cells C13 through F13. Double click the fill pointer at cell F13. All of the formulas are filled or copied to row 72, which you'll see in figure 2-94. So all right, so I could either drag the fill pointer all the way down, or I'm going to double click because I'm lazy. And as you can see, it fills in numbers all the way down to A72. So you want F72 to equal 0. All right, that takes care of 7G. Scroll, that takes care of 7H. So 7I says click Control Home. That'll take me back to the top of the worksheet. So Control Home. That takes me back up to A1. Now is a good time to save. So Control S. All right, next we're going to move on to step 8. Step 8 says build a multiplication formula and set order of mathematical operations. All right, 8A says click the fees and credit worksheet tab and fill and select cell F7. So I'm going to go into my worksheet or my workbook. I'm going to click on the fees and credit worksheet, and it tells me to select cell F7, so column F, row 7. (8B) says type equal. Click cell C7, type the asterisk, click cell D7, type another asterisk, and click cell E7, and then press enter. All right, moving on to E8C, it says select cell G7, column G, row 7. Fee collected per credit hour is determined by dividing the value in cell 7 by the number of sections times credit hours times average enrollment. So that takes care of 8C. 8D says I'm going to type enter. I'm going to click cell F7. I'm going to type / open parentheses. Parentheses are necessary so that left to right order is overwritten. Then that takes care of 8D. 8E says click cell C7. I'm going to type the asterisk, and then I'm going to click cell DF. And then I'm going to type another asterisk for 8F. And then it says click cell C20. And then press F4 to make the reference absolute. So when you hit F4, you see you have a $sign, C, $20. That means that those values won't change in this formula because we're going to do a fill. And once we do the fill, the things that are going to change would be F7 is going to change, C7 is going to change, D7 is going to change. All right, 8G says press enter, a message box that notes that the closing parentheses is missing. What you just did. All right, so H says click yes to the message because it's going to auto correct it. I says select cells F7 to G7. And then it says double click where the fill pointer is, and it should fill in all the values. All right, now it says format cells F7 to G18. We want to format that as currency, so I'm going to go to my home menu, numbers group, and it's already currency. And then it says, and set a bottom border for cells F18 to G18. So I'm going to go to my home tab, font group, border, and it wants me to set that with the bottom border. So that takes care of 8J. Now is a good time to save, so I'm going to do a Control S. All right, we're going to move on to number 9. All right, 9A says select cell D26. So we go D26. Fees by department can be calculated. So that takes care of 9A. 9B says click the Math and Trig button, which is located in the Formulas tab, the Function Library group. I need to make this a little bigger. Math and Trig. And select SUMIF. So as you hover over these, again, it tells you exactly what it's going to do. So it says select SUMIF. It gives me a function argument. All right, that takes care of 9B. 9C says click the range box and select cells A7 to A18. So I'm going to click the range box and so that's one thing to know. If you want to, if you're not on the screen and you can't click over here, you click this. That'll minimize that. It'll give you control. And it says select cells A7 to A18. So I'm going to go to A7 and I'm going to go down to A18. This range will be matched against the criteria. 9D says press F4. That's going to make it an absolute. So I'm going to select F4, or you select, or you click the function key, which is Fn, and then select F4 if that's how your keyboard is set up. All right. 9E says click the criteria box and type bio. So I'm going to click the criteria box and I'm going to type bio. (9F) says click the sum range box and select cells F7 to F8. So I'm going to go to F7 down to F18, I believe. F7 to F18 and press F4 to make it an absolute, or select or click on the Fn key and press F4 if that's how your keyboard is set up. That takes care of 9F. 9G says click OK. Total fees for the biology department are $13,350. So I see right here my value is going to be $13,350. So I'm going to click OK. Once I do that, I can see down here 9H says format the results as currency. So I'm going to click on cell D26. I'm going to go to my home tab, numbers group, and I'm going to select currency. So you see that number, that 13,350, is pretty much in all of these. Whenever you have a number highlighted, when you click on the numbers group, it'll show you how the number is going to look based off of what you click on. So it tells me to select currency instead of accounting. So once I do that, you see the dollar sign isn't all the way over to the left. You see it's right next to the 1. All right. Now's a good time to save, so I'm going to do a Control S. All right, Danette, how you doing? All right, we'll move on to number 10. Copy a SUMIF function and check formula errors. So I'm going to go to 10A, says click cell D26 and drag its fill pointer to copy the formula to cells D27 to D29 without formatting. So I'm going to drag. So as you can see, there are some values entered. Okay, before I move forward, it looks like I need to correct something. I need to put a $sign. Looks like a $sign here and a $sign there. And we need a $sign there and a $sign there. There. That is correct now. All right, now we'll move on to 10B. 10B says double click cell D27. You need to change the criteria. So I'm going to go to 27, double click. This allows me to go in and make changes to the formula. It says edit the criteria argument in the formula bar or in the cell to display FRL, which would be foreign languages. So I'm going to change bio to FRL. Do not change the quotation marks or any other punctuations. Press, it's 10C. 10D says press enter or click the enter button in the formula bar. An error triangle appears in the top left corner of cell D27. Alright, so we have our little error triangle. So it says click cell D27 and point to its trace error button to see the screen tip. Click the trace error button and choose ignore error. That takes care of cell 10. That takes care of number 10E and 10F. Moving on to 10G. 10G says double click cell D28 and edit the criteria argument to display IMF, which is Information Management Systems. So I'm going to click on cell D28, double click, and I'm going to get rid of bio, and instead of bio I'm going to type IMS. Now one thing I want you to know is we're just pretty much following the departments that are listed, department shortcuts or abbreviations that are listed in our table above. So we're going to do Information Management System, hit enter. That takes care of 10G. 10H says edit the argument in cell D29 to show the department initials. So we're going to double click there. The department initials for physical science is PHY. So I'm going to go over to where BIO is, and I'm going to type PHY, and I'm going to press the enter key. I says format cells D27 to D29 as currency, which I'm pretty sure it already is, but we'll make sure. Yep, it's already currency. Yep, it's already currency, so we're okay there. Now is a good time to save, so I'll do a Control S. Alright, moving on to number 11. It says use SUMPRODUCT and trace error. 11A says click cell E26 and click the formulas tab. So I'm going to click on cell E26. I'm going to go to my formulas tab. I'm going to click on math and trig, and I'm going to scroll down to SUMPRODUCT. Again, when you hover over these options, it'll tell you exactly what that option does. So I'm going to click on SUMPRODUCT. That takes care of 11A and 11B. I'm going to move on to 11C. 11C says click the Array 1 box and select cells C7 to C9. This would be credit hours for courses in the biology department. So I'm going to select Array 1, and I'm going to go over to the table and select cells C7 to C9. So as you can see, the values that it's listing is 3, 3, 4, and those correspond with these values here, 3, 3, 4. So that takes care of 11C. 11D says click Array 2 box and select cells D7 to D9. This would be the number of sections for the biology department. So I'm going to click array 2, and as the instructions say, I'm going to go to cells D7 down to D9, and as you can see, the values listed 12, 10, 8, they correspond with these values here, 12, 10, 8. That takes care of 11D. 11E says click OK. It says the biology department has 98 total credit hour offerings. So before I click OK, you see right here, it tells me that all those credit hours, all those numbers are going to equal 98, which it tells us in 11A that's what it should equal. So I'm going to click OK. All right, click OK. Now 11F says click cell E26 and point to its trace error button. So I'm going to go down to E26 and I'm going to go over to the error trace button. The formula omits adjacent cells in columns C and D, which is correct. Click the trace error button and select ignore error because we're okay with it omitting columns C and D. So ignore. All right. Alright, that takes care of 11F and 11G. Now is a good time to save, so I'm going to do a Control S. Alright, moving on to 12. Copy and edit a sum product. Alright, 12A says click cell E26 and drag its pointer to copy the formula to cells E27 through E29 without formatting. So we're going to go to cell E26. I know I'm on cell E26 because I see that the E is highlighted or it's shaded and the 26 is shaded, but also in the name box it tells me that I'm in E26. So those are ways to know where you are. Also in the formula bar, I want you to note that it has the formula listed. So that's what we worked on. That's where this number comes from. It comes from using cells C7 to C9 and also D7 to D9. So what we're going to do, as it states in 12A, is we're going to click E26 and drag the fill property or pointer to copy the formula. So it copied the formula and I copied it without formatting anything. So now it says click cell E27 and click the insert function button in the formula bar. Yes, the FX is insert function. So now I'm going to insert the function in the formula bar. It says select and highlight the range in the array 1 box and select cells C10 to C12. So I'm going to go to array 1 box and now I'm going to select cells C10 down to C12. Alright, the range you select replaces the range that's in there. Alright, it says select the range in array 2 box and select cells D10 to D12. So I'm going to go to D10, go all the way to D12. So you can see that we have our values in. We have 333, which corresponds with 333. And then we have 1355, 1355. All right, that takes care of 12D. 12E says click OK. But before I click OK, look at the value here. The value is 69. We click OK. All right, that takes care of foreign language. Edit and complete the formula in cells E28 through E29. So it pretty much tells me to do the same thing for E28, which is here, to E29. So we're going to go up to insert function. Yep. And we're going to select D13 down to D15. So that gives me my 15. Actually, that should be array 2. Let's do C13 to C15 so that we can be consistent with the other ones. And then we'll do D13 to D15 for array 2. So you see the value down here is 96, and that will show up here in cell E28. All right, that takes care of E28. E29, we do the same thing. Function, and we select cells C16 to C18, and then we select array 2 and select cells D16 to D18. So as you see, the numbers 444 correspond with 444, 778, 778, and we have a value of 88 down there. We click OK. And that takes care of 12G. Now is a good time to save, so I'm going to do a Control S. You good, Danette? All right, 13 says insert the current date as a function. So it says 13A says select cell G30. So I'm going to go to column G, and then I'm going to go down to row 30. As you can see, I'm not in G30. If you look in the name box, and if you see that it's F and 30 are selected, so I'm going to go over one. So now I'm looking in the name box. I see that I'm on G30, which is where I should be. All right, 13B says type equals 2. So I'm going to type the equal in the word 2. And as you can see, as I'm typing, it's kind of, it wants to autofill. So, and then it says press tab to select the function. Yes. And then it says press enter. So it automatically inserts today's date, June 6, 2020. All right, that takes care of 13B, 13C. 13D says control home. That'll take me back to the top of the spreadsheet. Now is a good time to save. Control S. All right, moving on to step 14, paste range names. 14A says click the new sheet button in the sheet tab area. So if I go in my worksheet, I go down to the bottom, there's a plus sign at the bottom to the right of fees and credit. That's the new sheet button. So I'm going to click that. That's going to put a new worksheet in there. So that's 14A. 14B says name the new sheet range names. All right, so I'm going to double click on the sheet name, and I'm going to type range names, and then it says select cell A1. I'm I'm going to click A1. All right, that takes care of 14B. 14C says press F3, or if your keyboard is configured differently, you would press the FN key, which is the function key, and then press F3. So I'm going to press F3. That brings up the paste name box, dialog box. So I have the paste name dialog box where it says, or click use in formula area, which is in the formulas tab, define names group, and select paste names. Well, we already have it selected. All right. So next thing it says, it takes care of 14C. 14D says click the paste button, paste list button. All right. Auto fit each column. So to auto fit each column, you could either select all of the columns and then go in between one of the columns, two of the columns, and do it that way, or you can select the whole spreadsheet and go in between two columns and double click. It'll do the same thing. It just depending on what columns you want resized. All right, that takes care of 14E. All right, next, the very important task of saving. So we can do a Control S. We can go up to the top, click the floppy, and click on that, or we can go to the back page and select save. So that takes care of 15. Next thing is upload and save project. So I'm done with the project. So now I'm going to go back into SimNet. Now, instead of doing step 1, we've already completed step 1. We want to upload our file. So my files are generally downloaded automatically to this PC downloads folder. I want to make sure that I have the right document. I have my first and last name, the name of the assignment, and 02 is the chapter that we're working on. I usually sort by date modified so that I have the latest document that I worked on at the top. And when I do that, I look at the date. That's today's date. And if the time is close to what the current time is, which is 10:09, I would say that this is the file that we need to upload. So I'll click open. And that takes care of step 16. Step 17 says submit project for grading. Yes, I'm ready to submit the project for grading. So that takes care of 17. And then one good thing about having the instructions, I always put the results on the last page so you can kind of gauge whether or not you're on the right path by looking at what's at the results that SimNet is expecting, and you compare that with your document that you're working on. So it says we got everything right. So I got my score, 34 out of 34. File name is correct. We know that. I got 100 on my first attempt, which is good. And if you scroll through, you can see that all of the steps have green. They're shaded with green. That means that those are right. If it was red, that means that that step needs to be corrected. All right. So another thing, you look on the side, you see that the font color is green for each step. And if you look on the right of that, you'll see each step, it says 2 out of 2 is correct. 1 out of 1 is correct. So that's a good thing. So to get back to the previous screen, I usually click on the assignment name up at the top. That'll take me back to this page. So if I scroll down, I can see my previous attempts. I have 5 attempts for this assignment. So on my first attempt, I got the score that I wanted, which is 100%.